Well, we can just introduce Talking Trade to be a platform where we talk about trade, as the name implies. We basically have, we put in the efforts to see that we get resourceful people from different walks of life that relate to trade or export matters. And we come together first Saturday of every month, and then we have very insightful conversations about trade. How can we improve trade? How can we support people that are new into the business? How can we tap from the experiences of people that have been in the field over the years? And for those that have been a part of us before now, you may say, this is a new face. Well, maybe not a new name, but a new face. And it is my pleasure indeed to welcome you today and to stand in for Lady K, who has been the host. She's under the weather slightly and just recovering. But hopefully from the subsequent months, you'll get to see her face again. But feel free to reach out to her and send her your warm wishes if you're in contact with her. And remember, we have a very active community on WhatsApp. So beyond this 1 hour thereabouts where we talk about these issues, we have an ever active WhatsApp community that keeps the conversation going all day long, all week long, all month long. And you cannot afford to miss the insightful conversations and resources that our WhatsApp platform offers you. We'll put that in the chat, and we hope that you can connect with us on that platform. But more than that, you can access all the resources we have on our website, which is www.femiboyedeconsulting.com. Femi Boyede, for those that are not Nigerian, is spelled FEMIBOYEDE consulting.com. And there you would see links to all the previous episodes. I have put in the chat that link, and after the session today, you may just save that link somewhere. And after the session today, you can explore, I think, somewhere around 15 previous episodes that we've had over the years. I just want to do a very quick recap of what we did last month, October. Unlike previous months, we had it in the second September, the second Saturday of the month. And that was because we were honoring in commemoration of Nigeria's independence event. And we were grateful to discuss rebuilding a new economic future for Nigeria, agro exports to the rescue. And we do appreciate the insights from our guest, Mr. Captain John Okaku, on that. The link is also in the chat. You can check our website or the YouTube page, and you'll be able to learn from all that we did during the last episode. But that is that about that. Let's get into the business of today. And I would like to start that by welcoming the host, the convener, Mr. Femi Boyede, to give us some welcome speech. And we would move on to the guest speaker for today. So, Mr. Femi, if you're there, I will pass the mic to you, and the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Sheyi. Thank you for swiftly accepting to stand, but you are not standing, to sit in for Lady K, who, as explained, is a little bit under the weather. Our hearts and our prayers are with her as she gets back onto her feet very quickly. On behalf of the Talking Trade team, I want to welcome everybody to the November edition of this program. Of course, like Sheyi has explained, Talking Trade actually started from a desire, a very burning desire to fill a gap that we identified, that is, for trade to be successful, for trade to be efficient, for it to be seamless, and most important, for it to be profitable. The major ingredient that people require is information. Information, and information. And so we decided, let's have a platform where sacrificially we can bring to people who are interested and who can carve out the time, the needed information. And as those of you who have been with us have noticed, we have always attempted to bring issues that are topical, issues that are relevant, issues that will, at the end of the day's session, generate a kind of pathway to do things better for the individual, for the company, and for the countries of participants. That has been our commitment. And on behalf of this indefatigable team, I want to reassure you that that commitment will not wane. Talking about today, I had a discussion with our guest speaker. Coincidentally, I think we had that discussion for the first time. I was in the Gambia, where I spent about 3 weeks. Of course, trying to see how Nigerian MSMEs and their Gambian counterparts could also acquire the necessary exposure to trade internationally. And when I spoke with Mr. Onu, I immediately perceived that he's loaded, he's got such a deep well of information that I wasn't just satisfied to keep it within myself. Even if we arrived at suggestions and stuff and way forward for him, I thought that this was something that this group needs to hear, and the world needs to hear, and the authorities will hear. They will hear because it is also part of our commitment and the way we have been operating. Hello, can you guys still hear me?
Yes, please, we can hear you, sir.
Okay, yes, so it's been part of our commitment and the way we have been operating. Technically, directly after every session, we do produce a flip book, which is more like an e-book that summarizes the session, and we do share this with all the authorities. At a previous session, where very, very hot issues were constructively discussed, we came up with the coinage, speaking truth to power, which, although it sounds very aggressive, is actually meant to summarize what we're doing here. That is, we speak the truth to those who are in authority, and we have a fair proportion of participation from the public and the private sectors. The private sector being the practitioners, and like I love to say, at different times, they are either the victims or they are the beneficiaries of policies that are formulated and implemented by the public sector. So insofar as Nigeria is a government-led economy, it will always be important to periscope the policies and their effects and their impact on the field. And this is exactly what we want to do today. I want to appreciate our guest speaker, Mr. Fidelis Onu, who is the Director General of Delta Chamber of Commerce, Industry, Mines and Agriculture, as well as the Executive Secretary of the Federation of South-South Chambers of Commerce, Industry, Mines and Agriculture. Of course, as I welcome you all, I want to, on your behalf, say a very big thank you to the Talking Trade team, the guys and the girls who are behind this session on a monthly basis and have been supportive since we started. Yeah, it's not a speech-making occasion, and I don't have any further addition, but to go back to the moderator as you bring up our guest speaker. Maybe you want to read out the house rules to make this session enjoyable. Thank you, and have a lovely session. By the way, let me also mention that we will devote a significant amount of time to discussion of the issues that will be raised by the guest speaker. And we ask, because these summaries go back to them, no matter how painful it has been, no matter how challenging your experience has been, as you bring them up, we ask that you be as corporate, as polite as possible, and so that, as I think is one UK television program, so that will mind your language. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. We really do appreciate that background. And of course, thank you for making this possible. Thanks for all the efforts that you do put into coordinating the behind the scenes to make sure that every month we do have high-level professionals that get to speak about the issues. And of course, we do not stop just there, but take the conversation further. So I want to say again to those that are just joining, thank you so much for joining. It will be great if you can share with your network, your contacts, your WhatsApp groups, or people that you think will benefit from this, so that more people can be part of the rich presentation from our guest speaker today, Mr. Fidelis Onu. I have just put in the chat the link to join, and I will just give maybe 1 or 2 minutes so that you can share that link with your network and we can have more people joining us. But while we do that, you may be wondering, what exactly are we looking out for today on the Talking Trade webinar? Well, the topic, as you all know, is speaking truth to power, unveiling the challenges of MSMEs in Nigeria. And we're pleased to have with us Mr. Fidelis Onu to share with us a case study, particularly from the South-South experience, but of course, it could be a replica of what other parts of the country are facing, or even people outside the country are facing. But more than just discussing about this issue, as always, we like to speak about recommendations and put forward recommendations, not just here on the call, but also in our publications that follow after the call. Let me just see if we can, okay, just before we get Mr. Fidelis to join, I just want to rule out the ground rules. Please and please, if you've joined us, we like that you maintain some sort of decorum. Please, except you need to, you may not have to unmute your device. And if you need to unmute your device, you may have to use the raise hand function if you're unable to unmute from your place. We appreciate if you put your phone on silent mode so you avoid some sort of distractions. And most of all, we also like to build a community of people that can tap from each other's wealth of knowledge. So you can put in the chat box a very brief information about you, your name, where you're joining from, the field, what you do, or probably you can also state what you are hoping to learn from today's session. And we can see if we can answer all of those questions, or if the guest speaker, Mr. Fidelis Onu, can keep that in mind as he speaks on the issue. So again, just before Mr. Fidelis comes in, we have the chat in the chat, the link to join the group. Please and please share that with your friends, with your contacts, and in 1 minute from now, we can have Mr. Fidelis come on board. Absolutely. And now we get into the conversation for the day. Once again, Mr. Fidelis Onu, thank you for joining us. We really do appreciate it. Let us be sure that we can hear you loud and clear. Are you there? I'm asking you to unmute if you just see the prompts. Okay.
Okay.
Great. There you are. So for those joining and wondering, who is our guest today? Mr. Fidelis Onu. He is Director General of the Delta Association of Chambers of Commerce, and he oversees the effective administration of the state Central Chamber of Commerce, which is made up of 4 autonomous city chambers of commerce. And he's been doing this since October 1st, 2020. That's 2 years ago. Before that, alongside that, he has also been working in different capacities, being a facility manager at the Modern Market, Ugbolo Kosa. He also is currently a forum member of the Nigerian Electricity Regulation Commission, and currently as the representative of DACCIMA on the NERC forum. He serves as a member that mediates between electricity consumer and service providers in Delta State. And in his capacity, he has resolved over 500 cases on behalf of different customers. He's also served or worked as the managing director of ISO Nigeria Limited since 1998. Talking about experience, lots and lots of experience, and he's been supervising the export of raw cashew nuts to Australia. So he's got so much experience and he's got so much that he wants to share with us today. And it is indeed our pleasure to have you, Mr. Fidelis Onu, on this episode of Talking Trade webinar. Welcome on board, sir.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
It is our pleasure. Would you want me to put up your slide right now, or you want to just give some remarks before that?
You can put the slides up, but as before I even start to use them, I'll just want to chip in some things like you right. You can put it up right now.
Great.
As the presenter mentioned, I have been around in the various capacities, serving in different capacities for a number of years. I've been into export myself as an SME. I have helped to set up export cooperatives in Delta State, one of which was at one time one of the largest, and in Delta State, because we had about 200 members in that cooperative export cooperative society. This was in 2015. And besides that, I'm a corporate member of the Nigerian Shippers Council. I'm the secretary for Delta Shippers Association. And one of the things we are trying to do is we're trying to push for the patronage of our eastern ports, in particular, the ones in Delta State, about 4 ports in Delta State. And for some strange reasons that we cannot fully comprehend, we do not see why they are not being optimally used. So that said, that's part of the reason why I believe Mr. Boyede asked me to come on this particular edition, talk to power. I will be trying as much as possible not to be academic, because I am not an academician. And at the same time, I'll try to respect people that I'm talking to. Hopefully, someone somewhere will listen and help us. Now, the first slide says that the importance of this is the interface between public and private sector as regards MSME development cannot be overemphasized, as the disconnect between the two sectors has been the bane of economic trajectory in a number of years. Subsequent governments have not been short of ideas. There's never been a problem where our governments have had issues with what ideas to implement and all that. Nigeria is one of the richest when it comes to ideologies, right? But our big challenge is that many times some of these ideas, before they become fully matured, for many reasons, some of which we'll mention in this presentation, do not fully achieve the purpose for why they were even formulated in the first place. So as laudable as these government policies may be perceived, subjective, there's a high level of subjectivity to some of these policies that we in the South, we often feel like maybe we're not being carried along, in the scheme of things in terms of government policies and all that, because there's certain things that happen and we get to know about it like maybe 3 months later, 4 months later, and those kind of things. So that's one of the things we hope that we can address in this presentation. Next slide. Now, in presenting this, I was thinking of what acronym would I use, and while I was a contractor in Shell those days, one of the styles of presentations they used then was the acronym called GROW, and the GROW stands for goals, realities, opportunities, way forwards. So please excuse my typographical errors, but I hope that the message is carried across. It is my hope that after this engagement, we can move beyond just rhetoric into actionable plans and fueled by passion and growth for the real sector and MSMEs in Nigeria. Next slide. A better understanding of the challenges. Goals is talking about, a better understanding of the challenges faced by the MSMEs, emphasize the need for stakeholders, public and private, understanding their roles in terms of MSME development, and suggest ways SMEs can succeed. Next slide. All right, realities is talking about the challenges facing the performance of MSMEs in Nigeria, to include, financial constraints, infrastructural challenges, management challenges. One of the things I would like to just talk briefly on these management challenges. Many MSMEs do not have a proper management structure, and that has been a big challenge for many MSMEs. When they come into business, they just feel that, okay, because there are not so many, they don't really need any assistance. One man is the CEO, the same person is the accountant, and the same person is the one, marketing his products and all that. I should know, I've been there, I've done that. So it's some of the challenges that many MSMEs meet. When you're doing contracting, it's easy for you to just multitask and, try and, meet with your clients, requirements without engaging other people that will help you manage the business, because you want to do everything by yourself. But that's also a challenge that many people have in the South and most parts of Nigeria. They want to believe they can do everything themselves. Marketing is another challenge. How do you market your products? Logistical challenges are also some of the things we are facing in as MSMEs or SMEs in Nigeria. Technological problems, poor entrepreneurial skills, government unfavorable fiscal policies. 1 minute you see the government is, raising interest rates. Before you know what's happening, the cost of loans become very, very draconian and not easy to access. That's a big challenge for many MSMEs, and we're hoping this can be changed. Policy inconsistencies. One government comes with a policy that looks like it's going to work. Currently, we're talking about ease of doing business. We do not know what the next government will want to channel their energies towards, and this can truncate a process that is just budding, begin to develop. The multiple taxation. I wouldn't be able to talk about other states as much, but in Delta State, where I am resident, that has been a big challenge. Multiple taxation. Okay, opportunities. Free online and physical capacity building programs periodically organized by the organized private sector, private and public sectors. What does that imply? I'm sure we all know this from other past presentations and all that. There's need for capacity building. That cannot be overemphasized. In exports, SMEs must take advantage of grants provided by organizations like NEPC, but at the same time, the NEPC must do more to sensitize MSMEs. In Delta State, not many people were able to access the grants that NEPC brought forward last year in 2021. And this sort of like cut a lot of them out, largely because they didn't even know that such a thing was going on. So that's another problem that we have with accessing all these benefits. So distribution companies are looking at supplying more stable power. By distribution companies, we're talking about the people that supply the electricity, the last chain of supply chain in the power sector. You know, so that's another opportunity. They want to provide electricity power or more stable power to clusters, business clusters and industrial parks. There are some of which we are working on currently in Delta State, and I'm also part of people trying to drive for that in Delta State through the Delta Association of Chambers of Commerce. Many B2B platforms provide free e-commerce services. MSMEs can leverage on to grow their markets digitally. We're talking about the digital age, you know. So it's a little bit compulsory for MSMEs to now take advantage of the opportunities to scale up their businesses and scale up their markets, you know, market reach and all that using digital age. It's minimal cost but great advantage. Next slide. Next slide, please. Now, there's also the opportunities given by the Nigerian Stock Exchange, you know, which is actively trying to, you know, provide platforms by which SMEs can grow their business through, you know, things like the initial public offerings, IPOs, you know, where you can bring your idea or your business to a larger investor base that can see opportunities in your business and invest in it, provide you the much needed capital. So these are opportunities for SME growth in Nigeria as a whole. Way forward, giving the people a sense of belonging, you know, get the youth involved in energy transition programs. That is, I mean, there are so many opportunities in the power sector that youths and women-based organizations can leverage on and grow their businesses, maybe in terms of providing power, you know, alternative power, or providing meters and all kind of stuff. There's a huge gap in the metering sector, you know, that can be filled up. Encourage youth involvement in export for survival initiatives. That's what NEPC is currently pushing, exports for survival, because without exports, we all know that we cannot get the much needed revenue that we need to cause our currency to improve in value. Liberalize the oil and gas sector to give room for more participation of youths in refining and marketing of our oil and gas products. You see, Niger Delta or the South region is very rich in oil. One of the biggest disservices that the country will do is if they close out the people that actually are the host communities of this great resource. You know, a lot of them are talented. They have the skills to even set up their own crude refineries. We think that it's high time that rather than blacklisting them or witch hunting them, the government finds a way to work with them and try to harness their energies into doing something more productive and more legal that will benefit their environment. You know, engaging host communities in the ownership and security architecture of the coastal communities. We're not just talking about protecting the oil pipelines now. We're also talking about, you know, guarding our ocean resources. Many vessels come in, you know, make away with our fish, enter our export exclusive zones, and just make away with our fish and other marine resources without recourse to the host communities or even to Nigeria. Some of them do not pay the necessary duties they're supposed to pay for doing these things. Either they underquote or do different things to try and deceive our people and make away with things that our own host communities should benefit from. You know, that's another challenge. That's something that is a way forward. It's a challenge, but it's also a way forward. Engaging the support of both. Sorry, can you go back to the next one, please? Engaging the support of both local and international agencies in sensitization of the youth through awareness programs and education. You know, one of the things that we keep repeating over and over is that there's great need for sensitization. You know, public sector sensitization, private sector sensitization, and that interface between the two, so that both sides can work better. Next slide. Okay, the REA, Rural Education Agency, also to do more in sensitizing the public on accessing off-grid energy solutions. Off-grid energy solutions. That's, you know, right now, since there's so much uncertainty surrounding the national grid. Renewable energy is another source for growing energy access and power so that industries can benefit, especially in remote areas. People that are into fishing in the coastal regions and all that, they need this for their refrigerating or cooling of their products that they bring from the sea. You see, so that's one way to government can help grow MSMEs in coastal regions and even in the hinterlands. Ports in the littoral states are critical to SME development. And especially in the area of trade facilitation. So we're all trying to talk about the ease of doing business, all these encumbrances about, duties, high cost of duties and all that, or port charges, discourage, SME development in that aspect, in the ports, in the maritime sector. So we think that these are opportunities that we can leverage on if we see them as opportunities. Then the chambers of commerce, which I belong to, should host more trade shows, trade fairs, trade exhibitions, and trade exchanges that will grow. MSMEs, give them opportunities to level most. Hello?
Yes, your video freeze for a moment, but you're back. Please proceed.
Okay. Sorry that the screen looks like it's to the right, but that's okay. So government on every level must prescribe illegal or multiple taxations. You see, how can a businessman who is trying to survive in today's world finds it difficult to cope because one agency is coming to tax on this, maybe water, another one is coming to tax on billboard, another one is coming to tax on, different things, and all these things, levies and all that, do not help our SMEs in any way, form, or fashion. They even end up making the thing. So we're thinking about the situation whereby everything is harmonized, and microfinance banks are doing a very poor job in meeting the financial requirements of MSMEs, and the government should ensure the reduction of these interest rates on, for instance, when I was doing my first export in 2009, I was being charged 36% for the loan I was trying to access at that time. It was very expensive, but because at that time I was very desperate, I wanted to do the business. I wanted to meet up with my clients' requirements. I agreed to it, and these are the challenges. And again, when you approach bodies like NEXIM, you are not even encouraged. They give you their requirements that many MSMEs cannot meet. And that's the blunt fact. I remember in Benin in 2015, I went with a delegation of MSMEs, not just MSME associations, that were trying to see how to partner with NEXIM in providing information, more needed information for SMEs that wanted to access some kind of financial interventions from NEXIM. And we were not encouraged in the least. So that was very deplorable. We were very surprised. We were about 8 people strong that went for that meeting. And the person in question did not encourage us. Instead, was telling us that people in the South are not serious. I mean, how can a public servant say that? So these are the challenges some of us face, or some MSMEs face, trying to access financing from different sources or public sector. Timelines should be set for policy implementation, and action officers should be held accountable for their implementation. We cannot have policies, very laudable as they may be, set out and nobody monitors them, or they just leave them so open-ended. They don't give timelines to say that, okay, before this government leaves office, these and these and these and these should be achieved. There must be deliverables, and whoever is responsible must give account for what he's asked to do this. We don't see this happening most times. Investment infrastructure is key, but equally as important as monitoring these investments. It's just as important when you are investing in infrastructure, the government is investing in infrastructure, trying to create an environment. It's also important that this investment is overseen or monitored so that there is meaningful impact and accountability for these investments. Enough of white elephant projects, as these kill SMEs. So in a nutshell, what we're saying is that it cannot be business as usual. The way the government is, the way the country is, there is need for creative thinking, disruptive innovation, thinking out of the box to seeing how the government and the public sector can harness the resources in the MSME space. UNIDO says that, I saw a write-up recently that UNIDO says that MSMEs make up close to about 96%. They account for 96% of all business activities in Nigeria. So, I mean, it's an important space that needs to be really harnessed so that we can see radical changes. We don't want a situation whereby in the midst of so much wealth, there's so much poverty, not because we don't have the resources, but because maybe the leadership is lacking in vision or interpretation of the vision so that there can be continuity, there can be implementation and all these things. So we are saying, or I am saying in particular, comes a time where the needful has to be done and the foot has to be put down. People that need to be called to accountability need to be called to accountability. People in certain sections of the country should not be seen as better than others in other sections, right? I didn't want to go into details concerning what the officer in NEXIM actually said to us on that day, because I don't see any need for indicting anybody. But it was very, very discouraging. It made it look like maybe the people of the South are not serious people. In fact, those were her exact words. They were not serious people and all that. So that's not very encouraging. Yes, there are programs in place to try to encourage, MSME growth in Delta State or in the South, but they are few and far between. And even those that exist are not really known about. There's so much that needs to be done in terms of, sensitization, creating awareness so that people can know this thing. Sometimes some of these laudable programs have to be domesticated on a very grassroots level. If we want the MSMEs to grow, if we want the rural-urban move to be curtailed, people run from the rural areas because they don't see opportunities there. Meanwhile, they are sitting in the midst of opportunities. I was in Cocoa yesterday at the seaport. I went for a fact-finding mission on the seaport. And on my way to the seaport in Cocoa in Delta State, to the left and to the right, the land is very arable. I saw hectares upon hectares of palm produce, palm oil plantations to the left and the right. But these plantations are owned by mostly one company, one organization. There are many indigenous of that place who are not benefiting from the palm produce growing in their land. So these people who own this palm produce, the company that owns most of the palm produce there, what they do is that they process it and they export it. The people in that locality don't really benefit as much in terms of employment or training or corporate social responsibility. So that's another thing that I think needs to be looked at. And the seaport on its own is another area that needs to be looked at. That's a very big potential for revolutionizing our economy and all that. But if you get there, not much activity is going on there, not much engagement is going on there in terms of the ports authorities and the host communities. Not much engagement. From the surface, you may think nothing is happening until you go in. You now see that some people are actually taking advantage of the ports and exporting from there. Real export is going on from there, but people don't really know. A lot of SMEs don't know. I mean, when I posted my video on my trip to Cocoa Port, many people were shocked. Export was even really going on from Cocoa. The impression we have is that most of the export has to be done outside of the Niger Delta, or if at all, maybe on airport in Rivers State. That's where it ends. So some of these things go down straight to lack of information or poor dissemination of information. So at that stage, I would stop now so that if anybody wants to contribute or maybe ask a question, they can.